Hi there everyone, this is Mr Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. This is of a patient who primarily attended because of their right ear, and you'll see that after we remove the wax from their left ear. But just to give you an inclination of what's involved in the right ear, and I think the title of the video somewhat gives it away, is that in their right ear they had a really small pinhole perforation, so the hole in the eardrum, and that was due to a middle ear infection. It would appear that they've got glue ears, so a buildup of infectious fluid. It has a glue-like consistency, and it's the smallest of perforations, and you can actually see the fluid behind the eardrum, and the eardrum itself was pumping, it was beating, and this fluid, it was leaking out. So it's almost like that little hole was almost like a valve. You can in some way compare it to you've got a very small puncture, slow puncture if you like, of your tyre, and when you're driving the car, some of the air will come out, and it's almost like a valve. You can see it's the perforation is so small that in some occasions the fluid is almost sealing that hole, but on other occasions some of it's being pushed through. So for the right ear, we have referred to the GP. They're going to have some medication for the middle ear infection. It has to be non-ototoxic. So a lot of the antibiotic ear drops that are applied in the ear, they're what we call ototoxic. They're a part of a group of medications called aminoglycosides. And examples of that are neomycin, streptomycin, gentamicin, erythromycin, for example. And the way they work, it's so within the bacterial cell, you have within any cell in the body, you have different organelles, and there's one called a ribosome. And the ribosome comes in two parts. And the ribosome is the part of the cell that decodes the genetic material, and one part then goes and fetches different amino acids and brings it back, and the other part of the ribosome then bonds the different amino acids, which then collectively form proteins. So what these aminoglycosides do, and I appreciate not everyone will want to know this, but it's for the audiological students, medical students who watch the channels. There's quite a few. We receive a lot of thank you emails from everyone, so thank you for watching. What these aminoglycosides do, they inhibit the function of the ribosome, which therefore prevents the bacterial cell from replicating itself. And so it doesn't kill the bacterial cell as such, but it stops it from replicating, so it kind of puts a halt onto the infection, and then hopefully the immune system can kick in as well and deal with the infection. So we've got to be careful though, because with these ototoxic groups of medication, if they do enter the inner ear, so the organ of hearing is via the eardrum, which is the middle ear, it can sometimes cause permanent deafness, so you've got to be really, really careful. So they're going to have some non-ototoxic medication. I think I mentioned this in yesterday's video, the one before. There's a medication called ciprofloxacin. They used to be solely for eye use, eye drops, and they were prescribed by doctors and ENT off-label, so technically it wasn't endorsed by the manufacturers to be used in the ear. However, the manufacturers of the medication have now developed their very own version for ears. So it's now not off-label, it's in guidance with the manufacturers' recommendations. And we've also, hopefully it's hard to know whether that perforation will heal. It's so small, so potentially it can, but the main idea now is to keep that perforation dry. I appreciate I've talked a lot about that, but I've not talked much about this left ear, so I'm just going to come back to this left ear. Now, it's an elderly patient, so it's slightly unsteady, but the entrance of the ear canal was really collapsed. It was really narrow. I had to stretch wide open the entrance of the ear to even get access, and you can see there's a lot of dead, mushy wax and also dead skin. So 60% of earwax is actually made up of dead skin. In this patient, probably a bit more, and they didn't really notice that their left ear was causing them problems, because obviously the right ear was so bad. The brain was more focused on that, and it was a major relief when I removed all this from the left ear. We're going to peel some skin away. You can see, I'm having to widen the ear canal entrance with the instrument, the suction probes. It's so narrow. It's a bit of dead skin. We're not trying to get every little last speck out. You can see I'm just going to go in. I'm going to stretch open the ear. I'm using the endoscope now, almost like a doorstep, to keep this cartilage open, which then allows me to insert the suction probe. This is residual skin. Just peeling this from the roof of the ear canal and from the front part of the ear canal. I think there's a flake of skin left over at the end. We're not too worried about that. And sorry, the reason why I was talking about the perforation a lot more, because the rights, when you see the perforation, it's a very small segment of the video, so I wouldn't have time to explain it all. There's the patient's eardrum at a distance. There's a bit of mushy wax just coating the bottom of the ear canal. I'm going to quickly hover over. If it comes away, brilliant. If not, it's not going to do any harm. A bit of wax is good for you guys. That's why the body secretes it. So it has some health benefits. It inhibits bacterial growth itself because it's acidic. The acidity helps repel insects. Earwax is quite greasy, so it lubricates, moisturises the skin that lines the ear canal. And wax is sticky, so foreign particles, dust, dirt, pollen enter the ear, stick on the wax. And from the majority of the population, 90 to 95% of the population, this earwax naturally migrates out of the ear. As the skin dies and sheds, like a conveyor belt, it comes out the ear naturally, and any wax sitting on the surface also comes out with it. So it's a self-cleansing mechanism. So this is the right ear. Now, it's initially a bit misty, but that's because when you've got an infection, it's increased temperature, so it kind of can fog up the lens. However, with the endoscope, it's great. Within a second or two, it demists, especially when I put the sucker in. So we're just trying to, it's so wet in there at the moment, and it's very hard to visualise exactly where this hole is and what's going on in there. Now, you can see it's pumping there to the left. You can see like little bubbles. You can see that tiniest little hole there. Now the eardrum itself is infected, so it's very difficult to visualise the normal landmarks. And on the right, you can see some bubbles there as well. That's behind it. That's not perforated on the right. That's fluid bulging the eardrum out to the right. And then to the left, you can just see it's pumping away. So I was just trying to get as dry as possible. So there's that little hole. Well, you can see it just beating away. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys, and it was a bit interesting, different, and it was a bit of an informative one, so I hope you enjoyed that side of it. Take care of yourselves, keep well, remember, be nice and be kind to each other. Thank you, bye.